Thank you.
Good evening. May I have your attention? I'd like to call this meeting to order, our second annual candidate Meet the Candidates Forum. Please stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Each candidate has been asked to prepare an introduction statement that I'll read at this time. They'll appear as they are on the ballot in that order. I'd like to introduce Lisa Marie Ward. Would you stand for a second? Lisa has been a Lisbon Falls resident for over a decade. She was raised mostly in Maine. Her Lewiston-born dad was in the Navy and grew up in the surrounding area. Lisa works in the plumbing industry in Lewiston and has lived and worked most of her life in Maine. Thank you, Lisa. I'd like to introduce Marcy Crosskill. Marcy Crosskill resides at 37 Ferry Road in Lisbon with her husband, Chad, and their 4 children. Marcy has been a resident of Lisbon for 7 years and an active member in the community in ways such as volunteer in the schools, Town of Lisbon Part-Time Employee of the Year, and volunteer coach in youth sports. Thank you. And Dean, Willie, is it pronounced Willie?
Willie, yes, as in silly.
I'd like to introduce Dean Willie. He is a 12-year resident of Lisbon Falls, where he lives with his wife, Jennifer, and their 3 children, one at each of the schools here in Lisbon. He says he's a Navy veteran. He's currently a contractor for CMP, working on the implementation of the Smart Grid network here in Maine. His diverse technical education, work, and life experience have given him a unique set of skills, which would benefit our school system, if you'd like you to know. Thank you. At this time, each candidate present will be permitted to make a 3-minute opening statement. Is everybody prepared to do that? And I'll begin with the at-large council candidate, Lisa Ward.
Thank you. Should I move this?
Yes, move right down in front of you.
Thank you. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Lewiston and Brunswick, and my dad was from Lewiston. My mom grew up right here in Lisbon. I graduated from Brunswick High in 1982. And I attended Wells College in upstate New York for 4 years, where I studied American government and communications. I worked at campus jobs throughout. And when I returned to Maine, I worked in a variety of fields, including printing, restaurants, the craft industry, and customer service. I've worked for several small businesses. I gained an appreciation for the hard work and the many obstacles our Maine small business owners run into. I've also worked for larger companies, including LL Bean and currently FW Web Company. All of these experiences have allowed me to grow and given me the opportunity to meet and work with a broad range of people and products. I've also coached debate and speech at the high school level and shared my skills in basket making at several adult ed programs. When I first considered working at my current job at FW Web, the closest thing to plumbing I'd ever come was, well, plunging a toilet. So I know that I knew when I started out that I had a lot to learn. But I know that my strongest asset is that I learn quickly and I absorb the information I need to make informed decisions. I've learned to listen carefully and ask questions that need to be asked to do my job to the best of my ability. I believe strongly in the value of volunteerism. As a member of the Lisbon Volunteers and Police Service, VIPS, I've been a part of the Citizen Outreach Program for a couple of years now. We place calls to seniors in Lisbon on a regular schedule and check on them. We just make sure everything's okay. We've reached out to help them in many ways, but mostly we're just a listening ear for our neighbors. Those of us in the program have been rewarded with meeting neighbors who we might not have otherwise met. and renewing a respect for the issues that face the seniors in our community. We were honored to receive the Red Cross Real Heroes Award in the first year of our program. There are a lot of things that keep me connected to my community, like that program. I'm a member of the Androscoggin County Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. VIPS and CERT have allowed me to work with police, fire, and other emergency responders to learn about how they work and why they do what they do for our communities. I look forward to being a part of the Moxie Festival every year and the parade. I've worked on floats. For the future in Lisbon, I'm interested in finding a solution to the transportation issue in our town, in spending tax dollars in the most economical fashion, and in exploring ways to promote Lisbon services and businesses. I'd like to put the experiences of my work and life to good use, to work for the town I've made my home. I chose to live in Lisbon for its location. I've found that I like the small town I grew up visiting, and its businesses and its warm community. I'd like to now be a part of helping our town and its citizens and businesses to grow and continue to be the kind of place people choose to live, that they choose to raise their families, they choose to retire in, and they choose to do business. Thank you.
Thank you. School committee candidate Marcy Crossgill.
Okay. I too would like to tell you a little bit about myself. As stated by Mrs. Lysette, I'm married with 4 children. I reside on Ferry Road in Lisbon. I have been a member of Lisbon for 7 years. My husband and his family my husband was born and raised in Lisbon Falls. I have, as I stated, I have 4 children, one of which graduated from the high school this past June. I have one in the middle school, one in the community school, and one that hopefully will enter the pre-K program next year. I am currently a stay-at-home mom. My background is early childhood education. I graduated from Edward Little High School in '92 and attended Central Maine Community College and also took classes through the Maine Roads to Quality Child Care program, which offers certificates for child care providers and preschool teachers. So therefore, with my huge early childhood background, I'm a huge advocate in the education of children and children in general. Meeting the educational needs of all children has always been a top priority of mine. I feel creating an active learning environment in which students are engaged and interested is the key to the students of our community. It's the key to their success. Our schools are making strides to achieve this. However, I feel we still have a long road ahead of us. With less money being given to our schools from the state level every year, it's almost impossible to immediately achieve goals. Therefore, our students and children suffer because these goals are always a work in progress. By being a member of the school committee, I am looking forward to helping with the financial piece by offering unique and innovative ways to help educate our children. Trying to find solutions within the budget to achieve those goals of the school department is one aspect that I hope to bring to the committee. With tough economic times, we need to be more creative with ways to improve our schools without placing significant burden on the townspeople, taxpayers. Another area I intend to help with by being on the committee is removing our probation status from the high school. The community school and middle school have made improvements to better the building, the curriculum, and ongoing education, but a large focus needs to be on the high school. Improving curriculum, class sizes, and graduation requirements is of utmost concern of mine. I do believe the committee is currently working towards improvements in those areas, but I look forward to being able to offer more ideas to help with that process. I have a huge concern for the state of our education in our country in general. As a whole, I have a desire to help and offer assistance however I may be able to do that. And right now, being able to help at a lower level and help the students of our community is exactly where I feel I need to be right now.
Thank you. And school committee candidate Dean Willie.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi. Dean Willie. Again, I'd like to introduce myself to you and give you a little bit more in depth of where I come from and what I do and what I hope to achieve. I am a Navy veteran. I've lived in Lisbon Falls for 12 years. I came here through the Navy. I was stationed at NAS Brunswick, got out of there, and ended up in Lisbon Falls and loved it here. I have 3 kids, one at each one of the schools, one in the high school, one in the middle school, and one in 3rd grade now. They're all great kids. What I hope to bring to the table is my diverse technical background and my experience working with different municipalities. In a previous job, I worked for a company called Tyler Technologies Munis Systems, where gave me the opportunity to travel around the country for installing municipal systems, information systems through towns and mostly in schools. And while I was there, I would learn from them how around the country how they get their systems to work so well, and I hope to bring that to the table with that. I believe that there's 3 things that we need to succeed in this town. You need community, you need accountability, and believability. The first thing is students need to be accountable. Raising student performance as measured by the state and federal government must be a top priority for Lisbon. Doing so will require help and accountability by all the stakeholders, for which consists of the school committee, school personnel, students, parents, and support of our community. The second is believability. We need to make sure that all the stakeholders connected to the school on a daily basis believe in what they are doing by showing them that the schools are accountable. This means that difficult decisions need to be made based on their merits and how they affect students. We must also understand how decisions made for one school impacts the entire system. The third is community. Community will not exist without accountability and believability. We cannot expect the community to support the schools if we are not demonstrating to them daily that we are accountable and we are believable. Lisbon is a great town. I love it here. I actually lost my job last year, ended up moving to Rhode Island myself. My kids and my wife stayed here, ended up commuting back and forth. Every time I would leave, I would come back and I'd say, I love it here. I can't leave. Every time I come here, you just go out in town and you know everybody. Everybody's friendly. Everybody wants to make improvements, it seems, in the town. But ended up moving back. Found a job up in Augusta. Yeah, it's a little bit of a trek every day, but it's a job in Maine, and I get to stay in Lisbon, and that's where I want to stay, and that's where I want to be. Getting back, the success of our school district lies within the town boundaries, and is only possible if we convince the community through improving accountability and believability. I believe that our community members want the school district and our students to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll move to the questions that we have prepared, that we have already given to you. The answers will be limited to no more than 2.5 minutes each. After candidates have had an opportunity to answer the prepared questions, the audience will then be offered an opportunity to ask questions. So, candidates, the first question: what are your qualifications for the office you seek? We'll begin with Counselor Candidate Lisa Ward.
Thank you. I think that my broad work experience combined with a strong work ethic and a desire to do the best possible job to serve my neighbors is my primary qualification. I really want to do a good job for the people who are my neighbors and part of my community. I coached high school in debate. I mentioned that a little earlier. It helped me to develop my own critical thinking while I helped coach students. I've taught adults in a classroom situation, and the combination of teaching experiences, along with my customer service training, have taught me to listen very carefully to the people who I'm working with, to troubleshoot effectively, and to approach problems with a positive outlook. I have a desire to find the best possible resolution, not just any answer. I believe my ability to communicate with others, understand when I need more information, and to reach out to the appropriate resources will make me a strong team player at the same time that I advocate for the citizens of Lisbon. Thank you.
Thank you. School candidate committee, Marcy Kruskill. School committee candidate.
The number one qualification is that I have had a child go through the system already. So I've seen a lot, I've been through a lot, but also that I have 3 more to go through it. So that was my, that's a qualification that I feel is pretty strong. Other more concrete qualifications would be that I have been an employee of the school department in the past as a substitute teacher. I was an ed tech in the kindergarten, and also an ed tech in special ed. I have also been a preschool teacher for the Lisbon Recreation Department for 2 years, in which I was part-time employee of the year. I've been a volunteer for the school department as well as coaching youth sports in our community. I've also been, I've also been on 2 other appointed committees in Lisbon, which would be the Lisbon Recreation Committee and the Educational Technician Reauthorization Committee. On a more personal note of qualifications, I am active in our community. I am involved in many school and town functions that occur throughout the year, not just because my children are involved, but because I really feel that the best way to understand as a whole what's going on in our school department is to connect with the teachers and the students. It's a great attribute that I bring to the committee as I am able to hear the voices of the town, the parents, and students and bring them back to the committee.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Dean Willie.
Hi. What I think I bring to the table is my diverse background that I have, and I think Marcy and I have been working in pretty much the same things, I think. I mean, I've been working with the local Junior Athletic League. I was on the board there. I was a coach for 8 years in that same league. I've worked in the town raising money to send kids to Camp Kiev. The 7th graders, a couple of years ago, we did a haunted house. Worked many nights over there raising money to send the kids to the team building camp. My Navy background, you learn to work with others. That I think is a great attribute. I see around the community. I talk to a lot of people around the community, and I think I understand what they're asking for or what they'd like to see for somebody that's on the school committee. I think I'm an advocate for the co-curricular activities. That's one of the things that I don't want to see go away. And more it seems to go away. I know it's a financial issue, but I think there's different ways that you can find money. My background in technology, I know that I can find hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the technology budget in the school that can be put elsewhere, because for every dollar that you spend in, say, on technology, there's free products out there that are the exact same thing, from operating systems to like Microsoft Office. There's equivalent systems where you can save thousands of dollars a year just by implementing the freeware and the what they call shareware. I think that angle, I think having that knowledge is a big asset to the school board.
Thank you. Question number 2. What motivated you to run for the office you seek? And we'll begin with Counselor Candidate Lisa Ward.
Thank you. I actually lived in Lisbon for several years before I came to the realization that I liked living here a lot. I started to get to know some of my neighbors. I began to make a more conscious effort to shop and dine in town and look for those opportunities locally. One night, a neighbor invited me to attend the Citizens Police Academy with her, and I agreed. I admit, only after she said I could ride in the police car at the end of the class, but she really wanted to do it, didn't want to do it by herself, and I thought it would be a good opportunity. just to find out about how that facet of our town works. I never really felt one way or another about how that department works, other than the fact that I haven't gotten any speeding tickets in Lisbon, and I'm happy about that. I learned a lot in that class. More opportunities began to present themselves, and I've been able to take advantage of them. The CERT program through the county is one of them, where I can serve the larger community. In the past couple of years, I've enjoyed the opportunity to work on the float for the Moxie Parade. I've attended the annual Christmas tree lighting. I've walked our trail many times. I've paddled up the Little Sabatis River. Living in Lisbon and participating in the community, being a part of it, has given me a deeper appreciation for the town as a whole. I'd like to continue to be a part of that and to offer my commitment to my neighbors to make the most of what we have here. I'd like to put my knowledge and expertise to work in a way that can positively affect my neighbors and to really help our town work as a whole, just to be a really great place. Thank you.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Marcy Krosno.
The main focus of my motivation is the education of my children, but also the children and the students in our community. We have a great community. I'm very proud of it, and so just the motivation of my children, spread out to the education of the children in our town is my motivation. I feel we have much strength within our youngsters in town, and feel that they deserve the best education that we can give them. I feel with my experiences within the school department and being an avid member of our town, I can offer suggestions to help improve our schools. I'm also eager to gain knowledge of how our school department operates, makes decisions, and also become aware of the policies and procedures that govern the school board. Being on the other side, being the parent, is very different than being on the school board, and I understand that. My motivation of being on the school board actually comes from my questions that I have as a parent. And so by being on the school board committee, I'm hoping to get those questions answered. Again, whether it be by things that are currently in progress or by the governing policies and procedures that the school board committee has to follow in general. So I'm anxious to learn that and offer my insight.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Dean Wiley.
Really? My motivation is I was tired of sitting on the sidelines and watching the world go by and not taking part in what goes on in the town. And I watched the school committee and I watched the school, and then I listened to the community members and things that they're saying about they dread sending their students and kids, before my kids were even in the high school and middle school, they dreaded sending their kids there because they didn't feel that they were going to get an education there, or they dreaded the conditions of the school, or they weren't going to get, they were cutting all kinds of different programs and they weren't going to get what they needed. And then a few years ago, it came to fruition where the NEASC actually started downgrading the high school to probationary status, and I was like, there's got to be something that I can do. So eventually, when I did move back to Lisbon after being away, I decided to run for school board because I thought there would be something that I could do for my children and the town in general. And that's pretty much why I want to run for town, this school committee.
Thank you. The next question is, do you have sufficient time and energy to devote to this position? We'll begin with council candidate Lisa Ward.
Thank you. I work full-time at my job at FW Web Company. I work a full work week every week. In addition, I have volunteer projects I work on. I have meetings for the Volunteers and Police Service and Community Emergency Response Team. I have trainings. I volunteer my time when I can for other projects that interest me or are important to me. I am a busy person. It's exactly why I know that I have the time to invest in a commitment to the council. Lucille Ball said, "If you want something done, ask a busy person to do it." I've found that the more I wish to accomplish, the more likely I am to find the time in my schedule to do so. Energy is something I've never worried about. I have been described as energetic for most of my life. I'd like to have the opportunity to put that energy to work for the town. I know I'll do my best at all times. I know I'm a busy person. I know how to prioritize, and that's why I know that I have the time and energy to commit to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Marcy Crossgill.
Flat out, yes, I have time. When considering running for this position, my first priority was my family and how they felt about it, because I can't take this role on without them agreeing to it as well. It's myself in that position, but it's my family as a whole that it's going to affect. So we had many conversations trying to explain to the 18-year-old and the 3-year-old what a school board committee entails and what it's going to be. I sometimes refer to as a boring meeting to make it a little bit easier for them. So I did ask them and wanted to make sure that I had their full commitment as well. And make sure they were on board. My family greatly supports me, not just the family inside my home, but extended outside my home as well. My in-laws, my parents, they fully support me. And because of that, because of the commitment that the school board committee takes and the time that it takes, I needed that support as well. I am a stay-at-home mom, but I will admit I have an active schedule with after-school schedules, after-school activities, but with the help and support of my family, I have lots of time to devote to the committee. I am currently finishing a position that was vacant on the committee, so I do know that by organizing my time, I've been able to make the meetings and also attend the 3 subcommittees that I am a part of. So for me, it's just, again, like Mrs. Ward said, it's more organizing my time, prioritizing everything, managing a household, and it's a juggling act, but without it, I wouldn't function. That's just who I am. So.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Dean Willie.
Again, yes, I will have time. I will make time. I've been asked multiple times by my wife, do you really want to do this? Do you really think you're going to have time? And the answer is every single time, yes, I will have time to do it. Again, I do have children that are in after-school activities, and we find a way to make it work, my wife and I. We always have time to do what we need to do, and if the school committee is one thing that I need to do, and I will want to do it, it'll be organized into the schedule.
Thank you. And the last question we have is, with 1 or 2 meetings a month, all boards are limited in what they can do. How does or should the board decide what's most important? We'll begin with council candidate Lisa Ward.
Thank you. I think the key is prioritization. The key to prioritizing is a constant reevaluation of goals. Emergencies happen, new goals appear, new obstacles are placed in the way. But the council is meant to be a team, everyone working toward a common goal. I can't help but think of my college soccer team. We weren't all the best of friends. We didn't always agree with each other. When we entered a tournament or a game, we worked as a cohesive unit. We communicated, we ran through scenarios at practices, and we respected each other's abilities and know-how, used them to our advantage. Those lessons serve me just as well today as they did that long ago. We need to look at individual issues, how they affect our community, who they affect and how much, always keeping in mind that priorities change. But we can't just drop things because they're not our top priority anymore. So it's a matter of reprioritizing, not dropping and replacing. Looking at individual issues, I think of what are some of the things that we expect from our town as citizens. I know I look for safety, security. I look for a good education for the children in our community. I look for respect and care for the seniors in our community. And we all want a town to be proud of. I think these priorities, as basic priorities, can help us to take a look at the individual issues that come up along the way and make sure that we don't lose the forest for the trees. Thank you.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Marcy Croskill.
I feel the board's ultimate importance needs to be whatever it is that affects the students. When deciding what priority is, it needs to be the one that affects the students the most. So for example, the state of the high school affects the learning environment and continued education of our students, along with many other aspects of student education. Therefore, it needs to be a priority. Teacher professional development affects our students, therefore it needs to be a priority. Cutting programs essentially affects our students, it needs to be top priority. Cutting teacher positions and enlarging class sizes affects our students, it needs to be top priority. Poor state testing results affect our students, it needs to be top priority. And what affects the townspeople and taxpayers is a priority as well. But it needs to be second to that, as well as the financial expense that everyone will incur. If our students are successful, it continues on into their secondary education. Our town will follow, will be a part of that. And so I really feel that whatever it is that directly or indirectly affects the education of the students is the priority of the school board.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Dean Willey.
I think one of the top priorities, the top priority, again, like Marcy said, are the children. But with that, we also have to take into account the budget. The budget is basically runs what we put forth for the children. But we don't need to tax the taxpayers in the town more than they are now. I know what I pay in taxes. I know what everybody pays in taxes for a mill rate. The taxpayers are paying enough. I think that we need to figure out ways to shift money more towards education, because if you don't pay now for the extracurricular activities and to get a better school, a better environment, better technology, you're going to end up paying for it in the long run. They're going to end up without direction. They're going to be burdens on societies. Like me, if you take, when I was in school, if I didn't have athletics, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would have been out of school. I would have been a burden on society. You would have been paying for me in the long run anyway. So my theory is if you pay a little bit now, a little bit more now, or shift the monies around now more towards education, you'll have less burden later. You'll have more productive society. You'll have people with direction. But that's the way I feel about it.
Thank you. The floor is now open to the audience to ask questions. Questions must be able to be stated within 1 minute. Answers will be limited to the same 2.5 minutes as before. Members of the audience will not be permitted to make speeches for candidates, and questions from the audience may be submitted to the moderator, myself, to ask if you prefer. After the audience questions, and no later than 6:20, candidates will be given an opportunity to provide a summation, which may not be longer than 2 minutes. Are there any audience questions?
I have a question, Lisa. Do I need to state my name?
Just state your question. For the audience at home, you're welcome to state your name if you'd like.
I have a couple of questions, one for the Office of Town Council, one for the school board. Lisa, if I vote for you, because you'll be representing our town, representing myself and our town, running our town as one of the council members, do you feel, what is your position, let me put it this way, what is your position, how do you feel as far as the letter of the law is concerned and where judgment comes in? In other words, if I vote for you, are you going to use common sense judgment along with the letter of the law, or just hold firm to the letter of the law?
I don't believe in holding firm to the letter of the law every single time. Each case is a case-by-case instance. The spirit of the law is usually the most important part of the law. We need to use common sense every day in everything we do. I think of being on the town council as having a larger family. I have a budget at my home that I have to take care of. I have decisions that I have to make on a daily basis. I have to follow the law on a daily basis. The same guidelines follow on the council. I think that when we make a law, which we are involved in every time there's a referendum or a vote, that we're making the effort to improve how things work. We may, in the long run, find that we didn't have all the information or that things have changed and that the law needs to change. We see amendments coming on the upcoming election, upcoming ballots. I think common sense, looking at how things affect the community and working within the limits of the law, but keeping the law safe. I mean, it is sacred to us. There's a reason we have laws. Laws help our community to run more smoothly and better. But sometimes they have to change, and sometimes they're not 100% right. So I think common sense, you're absolutely right. If you don't have common sense working with the law, then you can't really make an informed decision. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the school board, a simple question to you both. We're in an economic downturn, as we all recognize. What is your feeling, and you expressed some of this in your comments, what is your feeling as far as money? Is money the issue to education? And what is your position as far as spending taxpayers' money to accomplish your goals? And if I could get a comment from each of you.
Money is always the issue. I think I believe we do need to invest in our students. Invest is a big word. We are all in an economic state of, downfall. Asking the town people, the taxpayers, for more money would be the absolute bottom of the line for me. I do know that these schools, not just our department, not our town, but in general, in this state and many states, are receiving less and less money every year. I do know that that's happening again this year. It is hard, I would imagine it would be hard to work within a budget and have to keep decreasing your budget every year and making configurations for that. My hope is that we can take what we already have and make it better without putting more monies into it, so to speak. I think the first step is to look at what we have, whether it be our building, our curriculum, our staff, our programs, our courses, and see if there is a way, and that's the unique and innovative ideas that I was talking about in the first part of the forum, seeing what we have and seeing how we can manipulate what we already have to make it work, taking monies from one that we may not need to utilize as much this year and transferring it over into a department that we definitely need improvements in. For me, that would be my goal. What I would bring to the committee is trying to use what we already have, reinventing it, so to speak, reorganizing it, reprioritizing, looking at the goals and seeing what we can do within our budget to make that happen. The bottom line would be, coming in at 0% would be awesome, but the bottom line would be if we had to go ask taxpayers for money, that it would be a very minimal amount because it does impact everyone. Again, with that said, the investing in our children's future is top priority for me. But I do know that our senior citizens are suffering as well. So to try to take that, those two very important people in our community, investing in the future, but still saving for our seniors and everything that they need to go through financially is something that I carry to the table. So reinventing, reorganizing what we have currently would be the best solution for me.
Thank you.
I think that what Marcy said is correct. I think the taxpayers of this town pay enough in taxes, and in this economic times that we're in, I would not want to ask them for more taxes at this point. Maybe in the future, when, if the economy comes back, I would be up to that. But at this time, I think that shifting the money around and finding alternative resources, grants, things like that, I think that's the best way to go right now. But I definitely think that I would not want to ask the townspeople for an increase at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Yes, I have a question primarily for Lisa. I like team efforts, and I heard you mention team effort with the soccer team analogy. As part of the town council, and you want to see it operate as a team, what would be a priority, if not the number one priority for that team, in your view?
I think the priority is communicating in the most effective manner. I think as a person who's attended town council meetings on and off over the past few years, I'm often in the dark. I don't know what's going on, even when people ask questions. We can't make informed decisions if we don't have the information. So I like to know what's going on. And I don't like to be blindsided any more than anybody else. So I think that improving how the town council communicates within as well as without would be really helpful for the town and for the council as a working team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to make it so all of you can answer this. Everyone spoke of community. If you're our town council, are you willing to give up a little of your time to go to a school committee meeting? Since we are a community and we don't usually see town council at a school committee meeting, especially with budget time, because right now, next year, the school's already in a loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to see town council there, hearing what's going on, where the money's going, what is needed, would help the school with the community. And as far as the school, are you willing to give up your time to go to the town council meetings to see what's happening? I know when I come here, I'm very surprised. Sometimes I'm lost, too. I don't know what's going on, and you hear rumors. So are you all willing to give up some of your time to go to each other's meetings to work as a community to help the public understand what's going on in the schools, what is needed? So if their taxes are raised, they're not being bombarded with taxes from the school or the community, but they're finding out both reasons why.
Is that a, you want to
All
answer?
three of you.
Okay. I don't, unfortunately, physically go to the town council meetings. I do go to a lot of school board meetings. The town council meetings, I watch almost every single one of them. Now that they're online, I do watch them. I also read all the minutes. You don't get everything you need from the minutes, so I do watch them on, I think it's Great Falls, the internet. So I do watch them, so I do know both sides of the issue.
I think that's a great point. Given the last few months that I've been able to sit on the school board committees, when it comes to budget time, it is an important aspect to get that information to the public, and I think that having that connection would be wonderful. Sitting in on town council meetings would be a great start. I would be more than willing to make time for that. It's also important to have more attendance at school board meetings as well, I believe, so that that information is portrayed to everyone. It is hard, as I said before, being on one side, being a taxpayer, being a parent, and sitting on that side and hearing what's going on, but not actually being involved in the decision-making or coming to meetings and hearing why decisions are being made. So I do think that that's very important. And if we did have, if the school board committee did have town council present at their meetings, that might be a great way as well to get that out there. So I agree. I think that's a very good point.
I'm glad that question's been asked, because that's actually one thing that's really important to me. I think that the strength of a community is really based on the strength of the education of its children. And I've actually reached out to a teacher who I know works at the high school. We know each other from high school. And I reached out to her and said, you know, do you want to meet for coffee? Before I go to a school committee meeting, I want to know a little bit more about how, I've been in the high school 3 times, I think. So I would love to go to some of the school board meetings. I don't think I can commit to going to every single one, but I think that it's important, and it's another line of communication that needs to be open. I've publicly spoken about how strongly I feel about the education in our town, and I think it's very important. So I'm not only unafraid to commit to some time for that, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. Welcome, Commissioner Wells.
Thank you. Apologize for being late, but got tied up at work.
Not too late for the last important part that you would participate in it as well, which is at this time, the candidates are going to provide a summation, which may not be longer than 2 minutes, but we do have a few minutes, so if you would like to, we'll begin with Council Candidate Lisa Ward.
Thank you. I think that my qualifications, my broad work experience, my motivation, I don't have an axe to grind with anyone. I just want to do a really good job. And I really want to do a really good job for the town that I live in and I care about. I work hard at my job. I work hard at every single thing I decide to do. And I know that my level of commitment and my desire to do the best possible job, I want to listen to what people need to have heard. I want to be there for citizens. I want to be there as part of a cohesive team helping to make our town stronger. I'm looking forward to it. When I first started to think about running for this office, I was asked repeatedly if I thought I was up to it. I feel like I'm more than up to it. I'm ready for it. And I know it will be a challenge, and I love a challenge. So, thank you.
Thank you. School Committee Candidate Marcy Crossgill.
Well, I feel my strong desire for the education of the students in our community will be a great asset to the school board committee. I am a great advocate who feels that if there are other ways to implement things, then we should try it. I am a strong voice for our community, but I can also provide a balanced approach if necessary. I don't necessarily have an agenda. I am going in it pretty open-minded. I do have concerns that I am anxious to help be a part of solutions to. I'm going to be around our schools for a long time with my children and feel that I can offer great suggestions along the way. I'm very active in our community, as I stated, and I have had much experience on committees by being on 2 of them already. So I actually am looking forward to it. I feel I'm ready, I know I'm ready, and I'm anxious to just start making things happen.
Thank you. School committee candidate, Dean Willey.
Again, I feel my diverse background and my experience in all kinds of different educational background and military experience and work experience, I believe that would be an asset to the board. These are difficult times for the schools and our community. In some ways, I feel we've let our students down by not always being accountable and believable, and that we have the power to affect the child's life in a positive way every day. It's about time that the town and the school get together to make every school day of the school year a positive learning experience for all the children of the town.
Thank you. And Water Commission candidate, Kenneth Wells.
Currently have been on the Board of the Water Commissioners for 2 years, serving out Mr. Gurney's when he resigned. Excuse me. And I feel that I've been a quite valuable help to him, and look forward to keeping it up. And if they vote me in, you never know.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to thank the candidates for participating this evening, and I wish for you all the best on Election Day. I would also like to thank the audience here and at home for attending. Please be sure to vote next Tuesday on November the 8th, or request your absentee ballot no later than this Thursday by 4:30. Tonight's council meeting will begin at 7 p.m. Have a good evening.